Since we last looked at Halo Flashpoint, the skirmish game based mostly around the PvP portions of the Halo video games, there's been a few more releases. The big one being the Desperate Measures expansion and a connected ODST box set. However, we've never played Halo ODST, but you know what we have played? Halo Reach, which was pretty damn good.
And this new Noble Team box that Mantic sent our way is based around the ill-fated squad from that game, so let's take a look. Just to get this out the way, as we mentioned, this box was sent to us by Mantic, but no money has changed hands, nor have they had any input on what we're going to say. This is all of our own thoughts, and they will see the video when you do.
Now, normally we don't talk about the prices of these things until near the end, but I think we need to bring this up right at the start for this one. This box is £69. That is a lot of pennies, 6,900 of them to be precise. It is £9 more expensive than the starter box we covered back in 2024. Equivalent Flashpoint expansions, where you get some rules, some cards and some guys, like War Games or the previously mentioned ODST themed Desperate Measures, have been between £35 and £40. So this needs to justify being twice the price of the cheapest expansion. And that cost is all to do with the minis themselves, because they're a little bit different than the others we've seen. The other Flashpoint minis we've looked at thus far have been pre-assembled injection moulded plastic. They've been pretty decent for what they are, but have not been without their issues, largely brought about by the limitations of them trying to replicate the detail-heavy Halo armour designs in plastic minis that need to come pre-assembled. But Noble Team are Mastercraft TM resin minis, a material they've used for a small handful of special releases, strangely not Master Chief though. How different is it from the regular resin that Mantic use in their other ranges? Well, let's find out.
As the first of the Flashpoint minis we've looked at, these minis are not pre-assembled, and all come in their own little bags. And we were a little shocked to see that the resin is visibly quite different from the more conventional resin the couple of included terrain pieces are cast in. So there might be something to this Mastercraft resin after all. Once you get them out of the bags, you can see that these are really detailed. This resin is able to give clarity to the intricate greebles on the armour that felt missing from the plastic ones. They're also very clean, with minimal cleanup required apart from snipping off the vents, that are nearly all placed in areas which will be covered up, so you don't even need to be that neat. They are still resin though, so be sure to give them a wash in warm soapy water before painting. Just make sure you know whose arms are whose. I don't think it tells you to do that anywhere, but even if for whatever reason this mix of resin doesn't technically need it, it's still a good habit to get into. It gets any stuff off that might be left on there during casting, so paint can go on and stays on easier.
Once assembled, yeah, these are some very nice looking minis. Literally the only issue we have with them is that some of the guns are a little bent, but if you can figure out how to cast resin minis, package them up and ship them without that ever happening to the parts that are this thin, then you really need to patent that. Regardless, we'll fix those with some hot water after the video, we just wanted to show you how they came. But yes, the team. They consist of Noble 1, Carter, Noble 2, Kat, Noble 3, Jun, Noble 4, Emil, Noble 5, George, and Noble 6, Spartan B312, aka the player character. Assembled, you can really make out some of the nicer details, like Emil's skull face, which they could have easily left for you to freehand but is on the sculpt itself. Also the unique sculpted bases they all have, which is a little touch that adds to the premium feel of the whole set. Speaking of bases, George is on a larger one than the rest, what with him being, well, large, and striking a stance so wide that I half expect to see him at a Conservative Party conference.
Honestly, I'm not sure what else we could ask from these. For minis of these characters, at this scale, made of these materials, these are about as close to perfect as we think it's possible to get. And that is not something we say lightly. Sure, they could have simplified the details more to make easier to paint versions of them, But if you have resin capable of holding the detail, I mean, I can't blame them for using it. The man cannons are also here, bits of terrain that fling models across the board. They are also made of resin, but evidently not the Mastercraft resin, so are a lot rougher around the edges. Which I suppose makes sense, these are just little terrain pieces. And they do also serve the useful function of putting some regular resin next to their fancier stuff, so you know it is indeed fancier. So while these are incredibly expensive compared to the plastic Flashpoint minis, they are much, much better, and I guess the price is pretty in line with what you can spend on, say, some of Games Workshop's ex-Forgeable resin minis. Still, this box is not all minis. There are also rules in here. So, what do you get?
As well as a little pamphlet of rules, you get cards for all 6 of the team, as well as a couple of special order cards. Rules-wise, the big new thing is Big Team Battles, which is basically just a codified version of the thing that I'm sure many people were doing anyway, pushing a couple of boards together like they're the beds of a frisky married couple in a 1950s sitcom, allowing for bigger games to be played with bigger teams. These games have things like limited equipment and weapon spawns, and often have limited or no respawning. They also make the man cannon terrain bits you got make sense since they fling a mini 8 squares in the direction that they're facing, and as a standard Flashpoint board is 8 by 8 tiles, they'd most likely fling you off the map in a normal game.
Of the new game types, Mac round incoming feels like the most interesting, since at a certain point the map will be hit by a round fired from orbit, so you'd best not be in the way when that hits. There's also the Invasion Elimination game type, which is not a big battle, but is asymmetrical, with one side having the normal respawning thing and the other side having limited respawns. There's a couple of new keywords added too, like some of Noble Team have counterintelligence, which allows you to move a little when someone scouts. The new Noble Team specific special orders are Lone Wolf, which allows Noble 6 to get an extra action if he's far away from his teammates, and Holograms that allows you to redeploy your minis if no one is really where you want them to be.
Obviously, Noble Team are all unique in their equipment and stats and such. Emil has his kukri, Kat has her robot arm for punching, George has his being massive and having a big gun, and although the whole big team battles thing might seem like a somewhat arbitrary set of rules to attach to this release as it could have been done at any time, it is a game mode that actually allows you to run all of them in one fire team at once, so I guess it actually makes a lot of sense. Plus, I suppose the Fall of Reach was a particularly big battle, and teams were involved. I do feel like playing with these folks is going to be very similar to me playing with my Lamentus 40k army. Whenever you lose, it's hard not to feel like you brought it on yourself by playing a faction defined mostly by the times that they've lost.
One final thing to do is to let you know if, unlike the last Flashpoint thing we covered, what Mantic tells you need to play with the box is actually what you need to play with the box. On the website it says you just need a starter box and the rest can be acquired through the Flashpoint app, which still is not an app, it's just a bit of the website, but whatever. And it doesn't say anything on the box itself about what you may or may not need. And yes, what the website says is correct. The points to make a team out of them is on the app, and all the rest of the rules needed are either included or are in the starter set. Good. However,
it should be noted that the rules in the box are not currently available separately to purchase as a downloadable PDF if you don't want to go in on Noble Team themselves but do want access to the rules. Although we asked Mantic about that and they said that they probably would be available digitally at an undefined later date. So currently the only way you can access them without buying the rather expensive box to get a physical copy is by paying the $2.99 monthly subscription to the app to access them as part of its premium features. To be fair, you do get access to all the rules from the other expansions with that as well, but I can't say that we love monthly subscriptions creeping into yet another aspect of our lives, you know? But that grumbling aside, it is hard not to be impressed by the minis in this set. They are beautiful little things, and I'm sure that the popularity of Halo Reach, and indeed Noble Team in specific, will mean that the box will sell well regardless of the price or what we have to say about it. So we will conclude by saying, yes, the minis are a lot more expensive than the usual Flashpoint ones, but they are significantly better. So if you are comfortable with that premium price tag, what you are getting is very good. So as ever, thank you to Mantic for sending this our way.
And now I can finally live out my dream of George and I running away together.